If you haven't had a chance to play Hyper Light Drifter, stop watching this video right now and go buy it. This game is unquestionably my favorite of 2016 and will most likely remain that way forever. But what, you may ask, makes Hyper Light Drifter so amazing? Well, I could list off any number of things I think make Hyper Light Drifter worthy of your praise and attention, most notably the story of its creation, but also the gameplay and the aesthetic and the soundtrack. But I'd like to look at a slightly more esoteric aspect of the game. I want to talk about the storytelling of Hyper Light Drifter. Hyper Light Drifter is one of just a handful of games that contain absolutely no dialogue. And I'm not just talking about a lack of vocal performances. There are literally no words in Hyper Light Drifter outside of the main menu and the pause screens. When interacting with an NPC, you're greeted not by a dialogue box, but by a series of images relaying the character's history. If you talk to a shopkeeper, the only hints you're given on how to proceed with your intended business are a number of currency symbols and an animation of what you're purchasing. The entire story is told visually. But how do you tell a story visually? Well, a great example in a different medium would be Mad Max Fury Road. Not the theatrically released version, but the black and chrome edition of the film, which is an edition in black and white and entirely without dialogue. This version of the film follows all the same events as the theatrical release, but with only the music to underscore the visuals. George Miller is a director who understands how to craft a visual narrative, and if you were to watch Fury Road with the sound off, you would still be able to understand the narrative playing out on screen. The dialogue in Fury Road is pretty minimal as it is, and even with it missing entirely, the story remains intact. And such is the way of Hyper Light Drifter. The opening cutscene is, in my opinion, one of the most captivating in gaming history. A soberingly beautiful score by Disasterpiece underscores scenes of sprawling, beautiful pixelated vistas, nightmarish behemoths, and our plagued hero, the Drifter. We discover all we need to know about the world in one wordless sequence. And from there on out, all the discovery made by the player is done visually. As you travel through the game, the deeper lore of Heart Machine's captivating pixelated world begins to reveal itself. NPCs in each of the 4 main map regions will recount horrifying tales of the bosses you'll encounter, and occasionally you'll stumble across another drifter, who has numerous adventures of their own to tell you about. But there's more to the world than just these surface-level interactions. More stories can be found if you decide to take the road less traveled. The world of Hyper Light Drifter is full of hidden stories and secrets for the player to discover. And while other games might sideline gameplay and story for the sake of tedious exposition, Hyper Light Drifter allows the player to put the pieces together themselves. The world is yours to discover if you want. The bare minimum narrative is there for a player who may only want to go from boss event to boss event, but there is substantially more waiting for the more invested players. And much like the world of George Miller's Mad Max franchise, all of the super cool and nuanced settings and characters in Hyper Light Drifter never get a definite explanation for the reason of their existence, apart from some big, almost world-ending event. And that's okay. The mystery is what is so captivating. I don't know where the Drifter came from, and I don't know why they're sick, but I care about them anyway. Hyper Light Drifter bears a kind of loving craftsmanship that can't help but manifest itself in the most positive ways and draw the player into a world they'll never fully understand, but will never want to leave.